Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having an amazing day, and why not tell me about your day in the comments section. Anyway, today I'm going to be discussing items that could come to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel, if they decide to bring back item progression that a lot of the Zelda fanbase loved. The items I'll be discussing are all previously established and used items in the Zelda series. I'll go through the top 5 that I think genuinely could be possible, though I am aware some of these are still kinda far-fetched. But these are the closest ones that I could really find, along with a sweet little honourable mention near the end of the video. Now let's get into it. Number 1. The Hookshot. So, if you've been following the channel for at least a little while now, you will most likely know that I'm completely in love with the idea of using the Hookshot in a totally open map as Breath of the Wild's map was. I've said in the past that if we are to see Hyrule Castle rise as we see in the trailer, we could see the Hookshot used to let Link grapple to harder to reach areas. Meaning that theoretically, if the Hookshot does do this, that Link could grapple up to the underside of the floating castle, and then obviously climb up the rest of the way, providing that Link has enough stamina, etc. to climb up the land of the castle. Some of you may be wondering, well, how would that differ from the likes of Rivali's Gale from the first game? Well, my answer to this is that the Hookshot could be more direct and can be used as many times as necessary, and I guess Link's champion abilities will probably be stripped away from him, not to mention the fact that we could see not only one Hookshot, but also a second, making them the claw shots, meaning that climbing in the next game could be significantly easier. This would also solve a lot of people's problems with rain in Breath of the Wild. The last game that the Hookshot or claw shot was seen in was Skyward Sword. The Hookshot idea in general has been used for many years now, since the likes of even the Link to the Past. Would it be such a dumb idea to predict that we could see such a long-standing item in the newest game? I really don't think so. I'd personally love to see the claw shots used in Breath of the Wild sequel, as I think in a giant open world an item such as this would be purely amazing. Imagine whipping around Hyrule like you're Spider-Man. I mean seriously, there's even traversal options for this item. There's a ridiculous amount of potential to build upon, and I really do think that the Zelda team should and will capitalise on it. I mean, we're talking about probably the objectively coolest item in any Zelda game. Heck yeah, I want to see it. Number 2. The Hero's Bow. Okay then, so next I'll be talking about the Hero's Bow. Most notably seen in Majora's Mask, Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, and a variation of it used in the form of the Fairy Bow in the Ocarina of Time. Some of you may be saying that Breath of the Wild introduced a system meaning any swords, bows and shields can break, but I beg to differ, as the Master Sword is seemed to be unbreakable in Breath of the Wild, though it can still run out of energy. But over time, that energy will come back, and even for the shield category of weaponry, there's an absolute powerhouse when it comes to overall defense and durability. And of course, it's the infamous Hylian shield, a shield used by every hero who dawns green, or blue in this case, in the more realistic 3D games. So I think seeing similar treatment for a single bow in Link's arsenal would be no giant feat. In fact, I spent a good portion of my first playthrough of Breath of the Wild hunting down a bow that was similar in power to the upgraded Master Sword or Hylian shield, but no such bow was really found, and we all know that these bows are fan favourites. Who doesn't love shooting the hero's bow's arrows at unsuspecting bokoblins in Twilight Princess? I think this is such a missed opportunity if left unexplored, so I can only hope that the Zelda team will implement a genuinely empowering bow, unlike most seen in Breath of the Wild. Number 3. The Zoro Flippers. This topic has been thoroughly explored on other channels and even on my own, but I think that underwater exploration is to make a comeback in the sequel to Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild showed us a huge lake Hylia, and I spent a long time excited to finally get my hands on a water tunic or a pair of Zoro Flippers, but that time never came. I mean, you get the Zoro armor that Mipha specifically creates for the use by the hero of Wilds, but it just kinda lets you swim up waterfalls and swim just that little bit faster when upgraded. Like I'll say, and I have said about a lot of stuff in this list, this was an extremely baffling missed opportunity. After seeing the giant underwater coliseum that was present in Twilight Princess, and then seeing an even more thought out swimming system in Skyward Sword, I really thought that we were in for the chance to see the absolute peak of swimming in Zelda games in this game. And while the game added some cool overwater mechanics, such as, cryonis and sailing, I found myself wanting to explore below the surface, down to the depths of the frightening Sea of Hyrule, or as already mentioned, an even cooler variant of Lake Hylia's underwater section. It really seems possible at first glance that you could see it in Breath of the Wild, but that hope is dumbfounded. And I do believe that if we get this in Breath of the Wild sequel, it'll be more a tunic than the Zoro Flippers, considering they've never been used in a 3D Zelda game, but seeing a fresh take in the 3D games would be astounding. Number 4. The Pegasus Boots. Now, I probably know that just like the Zoro Flippers section, some of you are going to go bonkers over this one, because, I mean, the Pegasus Boots have literally never been seen in a 3D Zelda game. But this seems ridiculously likely to me. Imagine being able to run 2 times as fast in Breath of the Wild if you want to, but only pressing a different button to run slightly faster. Getting around in what I can only assume is a giant open world in the next Zelda game will be so much easier just using one item. it's never seen in the 3D library of games. Maybe this boots can only be used for 20 seconds, or perhaps you use up more stamina when you use the boots. Who knows? Point is that it seems very likely, as I've said, but there are a few flaws in all of this. One of the biggest ones being that after getting the boots, animals such as horses and other rideable mounts will be completely useless, and would therefore become obsolete. Another problem with having some speedy boots in your Zelda games would have to be that the next game will no doubt be a graphical masterpiece and will look the same as, if not nicer, than Breath of the Wild. And while this is basically confirmed already, really being able to see this beauty present in Breath of the Wild was one of the main points that the Zelda team were driving home. And, well, the Pegasus Boots would basically let you take the game a hell of a lot faster than the devs at least initially wanted you to do, meaning you wouldn't admire that one thing you did in the first game. But Pegasus Boots do still seem likely, considering we've explored Hyrule and we seem to be heading back there for a second bout. My honourable mention, the hammer. Now, this choice may seem kind of dumb at first glance. I mean, what do hammers really even do in the Zelda series? They kill a couple bosses over the timeline, and they're used in 6 dungeons overall? But seriously, what do they really do? And honestly, this is why it's in my honourable mentions. There really isn't a real reason why I think it could be in the next game. Whereas for my other picks, there are larger reasons pointing to them being in the next game. But the hammer is really just kind of a staple in the series at this point. It shows up in most of the 3D Zelda games and even in some of the 2D games. Most recently, we've seen the hammer used in A Link Between Worlds, so this is a weird one, but I guess some puzzles could be used to the hammer's advantage. But with that said and done, let's get over to my last pick. Number 5, the Ocarina of Time. Now, okay, hear me out. This is so far-fetched when you have a first think about it. But I promise you all, with the utmost promise in me, that it makes at least a small bit of sense. So let's begin to talk. I'm not going to do the thing I do in all of my videos at this point, but people have theorized that we could be traveling back in time in the Breath of the Wild sequel. If these theories do end up being correct, for the record, I really do hope so. Well, would it really be that far-fetched of an idea to see the Ocarina of Time make a return, or at least a similar instrument? Breath of the Wild lacked any instrument for Link to play, and I mean, the instrument gimmick has really been a staple in Zelda since all the way back to the NES days, and I think that Link at least needs an instrument to play in the second game, especially if the music in the next game is going to be anywhere near as grand as some others in the Zelda series. So how exactly could the Ocarina of Time work in the next game? Believe it or not, that's a surprisingly easy question to answer. The Sheikah Slate and structures are not seen anywhere in the initial trailer. If the Sheikah Slate isn't used to give Link the ability to fast travel, then what could? The Ocarina of Time. I mean, its main use in the first N64 game was to basically teleport Link to any places he found necessary. It only makes sense that this would warp Link around the map to whatever structures act as Sheikah shrines in the next game. Plus, Nintendo really do love their callbacks to their older games. Let me know how you feel about this pick in the comments, as to me it seems sort of likely through the sneak peeks we've seen so far. Well, it seems we've come to the end of the video once again. What did you think about my picks? Tell me in the comments down below. If you haven't already, then please do go and check out my Twitter and Instagram on screen right now, and join my Discord seen on my pinned tweet, as I always want to talk to you guys. I have a Patreon, so if you think you'd like to support me in any financial way, please do go and check that out in the description, as it will help me out a load and you get some benefits yourselves. With all of that said, there's only 3 things left to say. Please like this video if you enjoyed, subscribe now for more weekly Zelda and Nintendo content. All of this helps me out to absolutely no end, so please do all that if you enjoyed, and I hope you have yourselves an amazing week. Stay safe, and I'll see you all next week.